Hello, my name is Delaney. I will be reading my final paper story, which I named The Conditions of Beauty. Thetis was the strongest and most beautiful of her 49 other Nereid sisters. Her light pink skin and scales were the most vibrant. She swam the fastest, was the most well-known and loved among the sailors, fishermen, and sea creatures alike. Everyone adored her, and her kind nature was known among all. She was the first to arrive when there was a trouble, and she always had the answers. Often playing with her sisters and watching over all humans who floated on the surface, she was also the most noticed among her parents. No one knew that when she was alone, she leaned against the same rock near the shore to watch the seagulls. She always found them to be the most beautiful, the way they glided through the wind, and their songs that could be recognized anywhere. Their feathers were so intricate, smooth, and soft, gracefully fluttering through the open sky. She always found herself daydreaming about what it would be like to have feet that could walk along the shore and wings that could soar through the endless skies. This is when she met Ezekiel, a seagull she often saw returning to the same spot near the shore. He admitted to her that he envied her and how she could swim deep into the oceans, the way she could glide through the waves effortlessly. After sharing each other's wishes and desires, they found they had a lot in common. Day after day, they returned to see each other and talk about what it's like to touch the clouds and swim through the oceans. They found themselves admitting their love for each other and confessing their desires to have a child that could have all the things they couldn't. Much like any parent, they would wish only the best for their child so they could accomplish all things they only imagined achieving. They would have wings and feet like Ezekiel, and have fins that would allow her to swim like Thetis, and she'd be the most beautiful girl anyone had ever seen. They prayed to the gods night after night until Thetis became pregnant. Thetis was overjoyed and talked to the child in her womb about all the wonderful experiences she would have, and asked her to promise her to tell her and her father about all of her experiences. Thetis's father and mother, Nereus and Doris, were very skeptical, not knowing the result that would come from this arrangement. They knew better than anyone that a wish granted from the gods would come with conditions, and that their wish would be granted how the gods envisioned it, which may not be the same as had they hoped. When the time came for Thetis to have her child, she and Ezekiel sobbed at the outcome. Their beautiful Evelyn had strong, muscular, dense wings that were covered in scales. The only thing that soothed their souls that night was seeing that their daughter was in fact beautiful with soft pink skin and human feet. As Evelyn grew older, it became apparent that her dense, muscular, scale-covered wings would never fly. When she went into the ocean, it was also apparent that her wings would cause her to sink given their lack of fat and overwhelming size. After many years of forced swimming lessons that had always resulted in failure, her mother accepted Evelyn's inescapable fate. She was stuck on land, often watching her father soar through the sky, or her mother gliding through the waves. Her father knew already from a quick glance at her wings that they would never see the skies. Both of her parents grew saddened by what they had created, knowing she would have no place in this world, and found it difficult to see her all alone and stopped visiting her. The humans often disliked her, calling her a monster since she was the only one of her kind. Being ostracized by everyone she met, she was overwhelmed with loneliness. Evelyn prayed to the gods every night, hoping that she would meet someone who would love her unconditionally. She knew she couldn't trust the gods for what they had made her into, but she felt herself hoping that they didn't truly abandon her the way everyone else did. Feeling it was unfair for her to suffer from the greediness of her parents, they guided a prince to her that was a native to the island she was banded on. It was love at first sight. Prince Isidro immediately became fascinated by her, overwhelmed by her beautiful face and skin, entranced by the otherworldliness of her wings. He immediately took interest in her, seeing she was godly. He took her to his tribe and quickly realized she had no faults in her kindness and patience. His tribe quickly accepted her, believing her to be a god sent to them. She fell in love with him for his strength and understanding, and they quickly got married. This marriage resulted in a son named Dante. Dante was born with tan brown skin, pale brown eyes, fins, and sleek feathered wings. Dante was celebrated by all tribe members as a new god entering their village. Prince Isidro was praised for bringing the gods. The whole village was so gleeful that the news of Dante spread to the seagulls, then the nymphs. Thetis and Ezekiel cried with joy and thanked the gods for blessing. They thought they brought their dear Evelyn. They knew they couldn't go to her after all the pain they brought her in abandoning her on shore. Both parents often wondered if she hated him and if they would ever meet their beloved grandchild. Thetis could never go to her unless she came to the water. Ezekiel knew he wasn't welcomed in the tribe since he left his child behind to fend for herself. They would just have to wait and hope that their kind-natured daughter could forgive. Dante, now 6 years in age, played by the ocean. His parents were close by picking fruits off trees. Dante grabbed handfuls of sand crabs and added them to his sand castle, unaware he was being watched from the oceans and from above. In an attempt to stand up, he quickly tumbled over and crushed his sand castle. This led to a burst of tears, and birds swooped down. One bird in particular consoled him, told him he had to make room for the more magnificent castle anyway, and that he would only make the next one better. The boy started giggling, and his parents checked in with concern. He had never had imaginary friends. Who could he possibly be giggling with? Thetis listened from close by, underwater, and panicked. She'd hoped this would finally be the time she could meet him, the boy who was everything she ever wanted. She grabbed his attention and tried to lure him to the water. The boy crawled slowly in wonder, then was quickly scooped up by his angry father, while his mother cursed Ezekiel and Thetis, hoping they would never be able to speak a word to Dante again. No matter how hard they would try to talk to him, not a word would come out. So that was the end of the story I created. And then I also have my analysis of my story, which I described as me finding the sea nymphs as a very interesting topic to discuss for the story because they're very family-oriented with their surplus of siblings and kind nature. Yet in my story, I chose to make Thetis abandon her own child. I think this shows a similar truth to that of the Brazilian story that we discussed, Why the Sea Moans. In the Brazilian story, a girl betrays her best friend by forgetting to lift her curse once her friend gives her the solution to all her problems, thus leaving the friend cursed and lonely, sobbing and stuck forever, cursed to be a sea serpent. This is similar to my own story, given that Evelyn's mother leaves her daughter abandoned on shore all alone when she realized that she was cursed because it pained her mother too much to see her. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, it was shown that greed led to the demise of Gilgamesh's brother and almost led to the downfall of Gilgamesh himself. Enkidu insisted on killing Humbaba for the sake of fame and a good battle. Being that he was in charge of guarding the forest, the gods did not appreciate the murder of this valuable figure in nature, so a curse was placed upon Gilgamesh's brother that made him ill and die, and this caused Gilgamesh deep sorrow. Realizing that he, much like his brother, is not immortal, he became greedy as well and desired immortality. He took a journey in search of immortality, and it took such a toll on him that he was ragged by the end. Luckily, he found his footing and found the meaning of life without immortality. This story closely relates to mine in that Evelyn wouldn't have been cursed to begin with if Thetis and Ezekiel had just been happy with whatever daughter they got, instead of expecting her to be everything. Evelyn never expected anything and was glad to have a happy, healthy child and a loving child. So Thetis and Ezekiel wouldn't have been disappointed if they'd placed those expectations on her and abandoned her when she didn't need them. There's mild themes of leadership, greediness, power struggles, and family bonds. The theme of leadership comes from where you can see from the beginning Thetis is the most admirable of her sisters. Evelyn quickly came up on a leadership role when she married the leader of the tribe, and the gods were being worshipped all the while. Greediness stemmed from Ezekiel and Thetis asking for more, even though they were already very strong among their kind. They wanted something that had never been created before. Thus, when Evelyn was born, they cried, and she didn't turn out exactly how they wanted. The power struggles are a long-running theme with gods. Gods have always made their place at top, known in most stories involving them. They didn't appreciate the demands for more than anyone had ever been given when Thetis and Ezekiel asked for more, so they granted their wish with conditions. Evelyn had wings, legs, and scales, but couldn't swim or fly. Family bonds were broken and recreated throughout the story. Thetis had a strong bond with her family and even extended her family out to Ezekiel when they decided to be together. The family was further extended when they had Evelyn, but then shortened it again when they abandoned her after she ended up being a disappointment to them. Then Evelyn, having no family around at this point, was welcomed into a big tribe when she married the leader, and then extended her family out when she birthed Dante. One of my favorite themes in this story was the changing of beauty standards. Evelyn was the victim of ever-changing beauty standards. When she was born, she was admitted to be beautiful by her parents, even if she couldn't fly or swim. When she tried to reach out to larger human populations, she was ostracized and hated for her large-scaling wings. When she was finally abandoned by her parents on a small island, she was considered then to be beautiful again by the small tribe native to the island for her godly appearance. The story does show a lot of similarities with modern life, I feel. Lots of couples have children in hopes of having a star football player or math genius. In a lot of cases, many parents even try to force those same dreams onto their children and try to mold them into what they desire. Beauty standards are also a very prevalent thing. Many people get made fun of for having differences, when in reality, someone or many someones will look at the same person and find them to be the most show-stopping person they've ever seen. That concludes my analysis and story. Thank you.